Yes.
And your story is so unique because it's like on paper and to anyone looking in at you, you are doing all the heart-led type of work. So what a revelation. And it's interesting because those words, I think, my perspective is always that our heart is deeply, deeply connected to our soul and always accessible within us, always accessible to us. But with this circle of like lived experience, when we're in sort of a when we feel that separation or disconnection, even though it's illusory or an illusion, it still cuts and it still hurts and it's still deeply, deeply traumatizing. So what would you say? I mean, do you agree with that perception? Or, I guess, because
Yeah.
to me, the words like, if you don't have your heart, it's like, well, you always have your heart. But like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that perception is like cutting and
Yeah.
obviously causing you to crawl into bed and then, have a 6 year sort of unraveling.
Yeah. 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 I mean, so you really hit on all the things. So if we were to say, well, when does a call to adventure usually come, or how do we recognize it? You hit on all of them. One is we maybe are really discontent with our life, or we're feeling kind of numb, or we're going through the motions. This discontentment with some sort of surface aspect of our life, where we live, who we're with, what we're doing for work. Often the call to adventure also can come in any state of transition that, yes, you become a parent, or you become an empty nester. You finish a graduate program, or you get a new promotion at work, or you lose your job. And then there's sort of also the category of, as you named, like tragedy in a way, which is really an unexpected transition. So it's the loss of a loved one, a diagnosis, a divorce, whatever it might be. And all those things are signs. I think there are places to really listen and say, pay attention. Like what am I being invited into right now? But usually we were just so caught up in navigating the surface level things that we're not paying attention to the soul level shifts. Now, after that morning call, and I would say my call to adventure, I describe that's a mystical moment. Mystical moment, again, this is sort of a broader definition, doesn't have to be just some insane vision, but it's like a sign, it's a
Yeah.
synchronicity, it's a sacred encounter, a spiritual experience. Those are all versions of a mystical moment. And so my invitation, my call to adventure came in that way, but all the other signs were there. I'd been ignoring them for months, for probably a couple years. And so, part of kind of breaking down and saying, well, what does this invitation look like? It's really important to do, because otherwise we can ignore, we can bypass. And the more we resist, guess what? Especially if a call comes and we want to resist it, we want to refuse it. The next one's going to be a bit more abrasive. Our life is going to be upended a bit more. And so part of why I wrote the book and felt like telling my story, which so originally something like the everyday hero, like every day was in my original title. Why? Because guess what? I don't have like a dramatic everything falling apart story. I didn't have, it's not the kind of story we often, go see in movies or love, are the best-selling books of everything falling apart and then someone rises from the ashes like a phoenix. That's not my story. Kind of regular, ordinary, and almost, I think part of why I kept wearing my masks and kept pushing on was like I denied the fact that guess what? I too, as a human being, have experienced pain and loss that and that my pain is needs to be tended to. If I ignore it, I will pass it on. And
Mhm.
so actually and I know there's so many other people like this. I don't have a dramatic story like that. So I guess I'm fine. Well, you don't have to just be fine. There's another way. You don't have to just survive. You can thrive. And part of the first step in acknowledging that is to say, and this is the first line of my book, and it just came to me. Before I don't know how much I had written. I don't think I really had anything written, but this line was there. There are a million ways to lose your heart.
Mm.
There's more than a million, but there's basically the idea is like you don't have to wait to lose it all and everything fall apart. So you can acknowledge that even in some small way you sense there's something more for me, that like I'm missing. I'm not fully alive. I'm not fully living the life that wants to live in me. So it's never too early. I guess. It's never too late to begin the journey, and it's absolutely never too early. You can anticipate the fact that this is just part of life and aging and growing old and evolving. We're constantly leaving something, undergoing something, and arriving somewhere else. Where we are constantly invited to really evolve into a fuller expression of who we are, and that will inevitably mean that we have to say goodbye to some other version of us that has served us well, but is really no longer helping.
Totally. And I love the phrase intentional evolution and intentional evolutionary, you know, behavior, intentions. I mean, I guess that's repeating the same thing over and over, but your framing of it being a call to adventure is such a beautiful, positive way to frame, that unknown period. It really is a nice terminology. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe to keep informed on these interesting conversations and introspective insights. Further, if you hit like or comment below, that supports other users in finding this content accessibly. Thanks for being a part of the Blueprint community. We look forward to seeing you soon.